Welcome to Talks Without Borders. Today we're again talking with Dalijom Parisi Štiks and Nevenom Mitić about their experience living in Serbia and living in Germany. Stay with us for the next 20 minutes and we'll hear about their experiences and their opinions. Welcome again to Talks Without Borders. Today we are again talking to Dalijom Parisi Štiks and Nevenom Mitić. Nevena, Dalia, thank you for coming once again and hello.
Hi, thank you.
Hi. So in the next episode we learned a lot about you and you living, Nevena, in Berlin and Dalia living in Belgrade. But this time I would like for us to compare more. So how would you compare living in Germany and living in Serbia? You can share your experience mixed with the experience of your friends, what you know, what you like, what you've seen. So what are the biggest differences actually?
I'll try and start, but I'm sure that Dalia will have additions to these observations. Like the most obvious difference is something that Dalia mentioned in the last episode, which was the pollution issue. So it was on the one side, of course, the air pollution, which is pretty obvious, or at least every time I land with the plane and then I get out of the airport, and it's in the air, like how polluted it is. It's very obvious. And then also it's like forms of recycling, but also trash disposal, which is everywhere. Sometimes even like trash is everywhere in the streets, in the city. That's like one of the most biggest differences. But also, like, of course, there are cultural differences, which are it's kind of hard to say also, or to generalize in Germany, because Germany is also pretty like a big country, and there's big differences also between Western and Eastern Germany, and even North and South is pretty different as well. But I would kind of also say, or argument, that the Serbian culture, is a bit more open, and I think that people are very social, or more social than German people are. So like more outgoing, which is kind of deeply embedded in Serbian daily life, to be like outside meeting people, which is also, I guess, kind of a form of not having as many, such a high living standard as in Germany, to kind of occupy yourself with positive things and to be out and have a good time. So yeah, maybe I'll have something later to add, but that's like the first obvious things that pop into my mind.
Yeah, this is definitely a question that requires discussion.
Yeah.
So when you say something, Dalia said something, and then we see what it is. I think there are a lot of things, but Dalia, what's your experience?
Yeah, so I also think this is a very big question, a very tricky question maybe, but maybe I want to add something about this pollution thing, environmental thing, like because which surprised me a little bit is that when I found out I'm going to Serbia or Belgrade, I did, of course, some research. I googled some things because, as I said, I didn't know that much, and I stumbled across some YouTube videos. I don't know how and so on, but about Serbia, and maybe, I don't know, they were made for some media thing purposes. I don't know, but like I saw a lot of woods and beautiful nature of Serbia, and also a lot of farmers. And I heard that quite often, that Serbia is a very fertile land. Like it's quite good to grow some, I don't know, vegetables or whatever. And so I feel like this pollutional thing, from abroad, it's difficult to read something or to experience this. And when you come here, it's like, is it just me, or is it my lungs? I don't know. Is it the air is so
something is not like it seemed. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It surprised me in a negative way, of course. And that about that, and differences. So one thing that I struggle with kind of is that in Germany it's like we like a lot of rules, and also we are very work focused and on time and stuff, all those stereotypes that are a little bit true. And here, like, the work-life balance is like really a mess. I feel like everybody here works just every time, all the time, also during the weekend or the evening and stuff. And out of, like, for example, also with the corona, with the pandemic situation, of course, they didn't have any financial support. So maybe that's why they have to work so much and do it also very in an informal way, also after the many working hours. But here also for me, it's hard to have this balance, I would say. And back in Germany, it is, at least in my bubble, quite a huge thing to have this work-life balance. And that's really a thing that I noticed here, that people just work all the time, every time.
It is a very, very big issue. I think I'm glad you mentioned the stereotypes. So regarding these stereotypes, I mean, you can talk both about German people and about Serbian people. There are a lot of stereotypes, and do you think some of these stereotypes are true? What have you found to be true, and what have you found to be untrue? This is the question for both of you.
Yeah. I can try and start. So one thing that is definitely true, I would say, is that very generalized stereotype is that German people are a bit more distant and a bit more cold, especially if you're, of course, a foreigner and maybe don't speak the language as well. So they're very much more distant, I would say, than Serbian people are, who are at first very open and kind of interested in you and want to find out where you come from. And of course, it's this happiness when people from outside come to Serbia to visit. So because I think Serbian people sometimes feel like the West turns a blind eye to them and to the country. So having visitors or tourists coming to the country is always seen as, or mostly seen as, something positive. So there's a bit more openness in Serbia, which I think is definitely true for German people, that it's different. Something that I discovered, though, that is not quite as true is this organizational part. Like, German people do have many rules, or the state, and it's very regulated. But I have come to kind of experience that not everything is so working that seamlessly, I would say. Things definitely don't work here, and it's not always clear even to people who work in certain state offices, for example, like who is actually supposed to do what and where do you go. And so I had experience, like, with this whole residency thing, that I had to figure everything out by myself. Nobody could help me, because each or at least my biography is a bit more special and different, and it was definitely something that I think it still isn't working so well here. So just like stereotype that Germans are so organized. I would say like bureaucracy kind of limits Germany to be more effective in some ways. Like also when it comes to taking political action when it's necessary, like the whole bureaucratic obstacles are immense.
Okay, thank you. So basically with the paperwork and you would be in the same situation as you were here.
Probably.
Yeah, I think maybe a little bit better regulated, but yeah, it's always difficult. Dalia, what about the stereotypes about people in Serbia? Are they true?
So I would say about this thing that the people here are so open and warm and friendly and so on. In my personal experience, of course, it always depends. They are true. So when I came here, as I said in the last episode, at first I felt very lost and very confused, and I don't speak the language. I can't read some street signs because of the Cyrillic and so on. And like I remember some time ago, I was again at the post office to pay my bills, and which is not that often the case, but sometimes people don't speak English here, which obviously is totally fine. And so a girl just came randomly to me and helped me and stayed with me, I think, I don't know, half an hour or something. And after that, we like talked for 1 hour, and we went grocery shopping together and exchanged numbers and so on. So I think, yeah, it is true that the way to communicate is maybe a little bit different than in Germany. But again, maybe in Germany there are two sides, like maybe the older generation is a little bit distant and cold or whatever, but the younger generation, I think, is very open and interested and very free and loves and has a lot of motivation to change, to do something, to learn and so on. So also this stereotype maybe is true in some way, but also not. It really depends where you are. Also, again, like Nevena said, if you're maybe in the south or in the north or wherever you are.
Yeah, it always depends. I mean, it's a stereotype about a generalized group of people, and it doesn't apply to everyone. But could you maybe shortly both say what you think are biggest cultural differences, maybe the culture, the food, the way of living? What are the biggest differences?
I guess, like, of course, we're talking about stereotypes, but I would just like to state that, which is, I think, maybe also not clear for many people in Serbia, but in general, that just German society is a very diverse society, and I think that's a big difference to Serbian society. In Germany, like, I think there are around 80 million people living in whole of Germany, and 25% of the whole population has a migration background, or they are descendants of people who have migration backgrounds. So maybe even people who one of their parents are German and the other ones have a migration background. So it's kind of hard to say like what the German culture is, because of course these people are also German. If they're born in Germany, they have German papers, etc. And I think, like, especially for me living in Berlin, I've kind of discovered that it's absolutely possible to live here and have a complete different kind of life than probably I would have in a much smaller city that is where a bigger population of white Germans, I would say, live there. So my experience is, like, in Berlin is a very experience of being very diverse, and the culture is of course, in some parts German, but in other parts influenced from other parts of the world and other cultures. So that's why it's kind of hard to put my finger on like the difference in culture when it comes to my experience in Germany. But like, of course, something that I already mentioned was this thing of being outside a lot and going out and socializing. And this is something that's definitely a big thing in Serbia, or like Belgrade from my experience, that people go out a lot, spend time outside with friends, in bars, cafes, nightclubs, also 7 days a week, etc. Obviously, all of this is also available in Berlin, but I kind of still feel that people go out more and are more social in Belgrade than here.
Yeah, you've mentioned this before. I think something that's just like through what you've said is something that's definitely a fact, if I may say like that this is a difference, and you already kind of explained why you think that is. Dalia, what do you think?
Yeah, I really agree with everything that Nevena said. So for me, the biggest difference is maybe, I feel like in Germany, if you're not in the right community or in the bubble, like life happens more behind closed doors maybe, and you can also feel a little bit lonely or anonymous or something if you don't have this connection to somebody. And here in Serbia or in Belgrade, as I said, I mainly can report from Belgrade because I didn't have the chance yet to travel around, is that life happens maybe more on the streets. Like you can just go out and look a little bit around and connect with people, and go to a coffee or a museum or whatsoever. Of course, also you can do that in Germany, but here it's like more spontaneous. I think that is the point. You can really be a part of the daily life without organizing yourself and managing it all the time or something. You just go out, enjoy the life around, I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely a nice thing, but is a result of having a different type of lifestyle and a different type of standard, I would say. And because we're coming to an end of our second episode, I would like to ask you, what do you think, how can we, because this is the aim of the whole show, to explain and show your experiences and show to young people that these experiences are real and that they can go somewhere and do something new and try something new. How do you think that we can maybe connect young people that are from Germany and from Serbia and have them find the same language and maybe find something in common and go abroad in both ways?
Well, as a creative, I would, of course, say through music, through art, through cinema, etc. Like I think like through art is one of the best ways to connect people, especially like I would say like music is a universal language, of course. So I think it would be great to connect Serbia and Germany much more through art projects, which could be potentially maybe funded from the state or both states, music collaborations and events or residencies, even like art residencies for people. I think that is definitely a way for young people to connect.
Okay, thank you. I think that's actually a wonderful idea. Dalia, do you have any opinions, any ideas?
Yes, I just wanted to say exact the same thing. I also have this artist background, and it really is that non-verbal communication. Like even if you don't speak the language or something, it can still trigger something or move something. It's a very nice thing that music or art or whatever really connects people from all over the world. Like for example, I was at a theater play which was only in the Serbian language, so I didn't understand a thing, but still it was so moving and touching and beautiful just by the aesthetic. So that is really, really nice, and I absolutely agree. And I also think, speaking about communication, that project like this podcast here really helps to connect and to do something and to bring another point of view or other point of mindset or something like that. So communication really is the key, maybe, and also the non-verbal. So I think that's true.
Yeah, I completely agree. This has been, because you both have the artistic background, then it was not surprising that your answers were focused on art, but yeah, I would completely agree that this non-verbal communication also could expand, and maybe they could connect on a different level, and that can be a good thing. And I also hope that with this podcast and with these types of talks that we can do something like that. Thank you for being our participants. I really enjoyed in our talks, both of our talks. And I wish you all the best with your artistic work and also with both of your residencies or just like temporary living statuses, Dalia in Belgrade and Nevena. I wish everything will be fine with you staying permanently in Berlin. Thank you once again. It was very nice talking to you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Great. Thank you.
And we will see you in another episode of Talks Without Borders.